So a few days ago, I put out on Twitter that I wanted to make a quick summary of where I was with the current status of the project. Now that we're almost a year into it, I started streaming just at the beginning of January with the first stream where I was talking about the NES architecture, and then from there I went right into the game. And I've been streaming pretty much twice a week, every week, up until now. It's varied from time to time based on the my schedule for work and things going on in life and travel. But by and large, twice a week for around 2, maybe sometimes 3 hours a week. So pretty substantial amount of time invested in it. I just wanted to kind of talk about where we are without going into the coding part right now, so that people who have been kind of checking out the videos and watching what I've been doing are able to kind of see the progress now at a snapshot. So where we are currently right now is, as you may know, I was working on the asset tool. And the asset tool allows me to take the PNG assets and convert them over to metatiles and sprites. Originally, the asset tool was meant to be a standalone user interface that would be used for everything, but as I went on more and more, what I realized is that I wanted something that would allow me to convert the assets from the command line so that they can be integrated into the makefile. And so you can just do NES asset tool export, PNG to MT for metatile export, and then I can go to the desktop and I can say new gradient. No, that's not it. New gradient. .png, and that will create the metatile. And then if I run the asset tool directly on that, you can see we've exported the gradient, which looked like this. No. Which looked like, why aren't you zooming in? Look like this. So that's a pretty good approximation. The gradient colors are selected based on an algorithm that we wrote, converting the color palette from RGB to the NES's color palette. And I can do the same thing for this other gradient that I had done. This one was not pre-converted, and so I can just run that, and then again open it up, and you can see it has converted it over. And if you're familiar, I've been using these tests for quite some time. The user interface, for a variety of reasons, I wrote the user interface myself, so the buttons are coded by hand. The color selection tool is also coded by hand, where you can choose the color that you want, and you can update the tile that way. And when you save it, it saves it out to disk. You can also toggle a grid and mark tiles as collidable, because although the meta tiles are 32 by 32, the collidable area is actually smaller than the 32 by 32. Now, for our maps, we're using the tiled program, and the tiled program, if you're not familiar, is a very good tile map tile editor, or tile map editor rather. So we've got our meta tiles here selected, and we can just update the map by working in here. And then when we're done, there is in the assets folder the exported map. I've got this text file that currently pulls a bunch of the assets together, and from the asset tool here, what we can do is here's the export folder. can remove all the content from that and do a full export from here. Shooter.txt. And that exports the entire project again. All of the content, all the meta tiles, everything is transformed from the raw format into a format the game can use. You can just paste it into the main project, and then I can run my make file and it rebuilds. Eventually the make file will detect changes in the assets and rebuild the appropriate parts when it goes to rebuild the ROM. But when you run the ROM, it launches in Messen, and then at this point we have a game that runs, and we're currently at a point where we are debugging some issues with the attribute tables at the bottom of the game. The ship moves, you can fire your bullets there. Bad guys do appear at the top, but that's as far as we've gotten. The collisions do work if I get to a point in the map where it's collidable. That art there is temporary, obviously, but the bumper is collidable in that spot, and when the ship hits a point where the collision is set on the wing and it collides with this part, the game changes state on the ship and the ship explodes. So making some good progress. Of course, bear in mind that all of this is because I am in the process of learning to work with the NES in addition to designing a brand new game. So the two things together, obviously not ideal, especially the NES is older hardware, and some of the things that we've been spending a lot of time on, especially things like attributes, are just an artifact of working on a game on an older platform like the NES, which, you know, I knew was going to happen, but some of these things took longer than expected. But anyway, so that's the recap of the game. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter at Clearvis. I'm on Nintendo Age. Feel free to post comments on this video on YouTube, and definitely come check us out on the live stream Monday and Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern. There's usually a few people hanging out and chatting while I'm coding, and it's always great to have people be on the live stream while I'm doing this. So thanks for watching, and thanks to the almost 600 people who have subscribed to the channel on YouTube. It's pretty exciting to see that many people are interested in what's going on NES Homebrew, and I'm hoping more and more people will be interested and come into the community and start making awesome games too. So thanks again, and have a good night.